we have been on began in September of 2010 with Friday Night Laughter. And we have been working our way through the material ever since. So over 2 years we've been at it. And so thank you for those of you that have been here from the beginning for your faithfulness. And not only am I pleased that we were able to provide the material, but also all of this, with the exception of the Friday Night Laughter, which of course we don't own the rights to and can't put on the web, everything is there and available. So you can go back and resource it. You can point people towards it, to it. And I appreciate my sister spending all of this time. I was thinking today that there has been a sideline that's come with this, because a few times my sixth child has come along on these trips. And I have a feeling that we're going to have to figure out how to have the sixth child come visit, because she's going to have withdrawal, because she likes to come and see her cousins. And her cousins, unfortunately, like to see her too, so they get a little crazy. But anyway, why don't we stand, invite the Lord into our class tonight. Let me remind everybody, class tonight is 7:30 to 9:30. Tomorrow night is 6 to 8, normal schedule. Those of you that are in my Saturday class, you get to come an hour early, 5 o'clock, okay? Don't forget that. If for some reason you have conflict with that, then you want to pick up the class either on a Monday or on a Tuesday, the following. All right? Let's invite the Lord into our class tonight. Jesus, we worship you and we praise you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to be in your house, to be with our brothers and sisters. God, we worship you. We invite your presence into this place. God, your anointing to be upon us. God, I thank you and I worship you. I praise your name. God, anoint our hearts and our minds that we may learn tonight. And God, that your will can be done within our lives. And we pray it in Jesus' name. And can everybody say amen? Amen. You may be seated. Let me give you the outline very quickly of this weekend. Janet will have 3 of the sessions, and then I will close out the session and hopefully be able to kind of do a recap and put a bow on it, if you will. I'm not very good at tying bows, but I'm going to do my best to put a bow on it. And, of course, this fall has been dedicated to looking at the point, the whole point of all of these family weekends, which is our children. I remind you that the burden on my heart that had me start this was my concern for our children. And the premise is very simple, that if you have healthy individual human beings who then from a place of healthiness establish good relationships with one another, whether that's in general and in particular husbands and wives, then in that environment of healthy relationship, you have a healthy family which optimizes the ability for the children that are born into that family to come out healthy as well. And so really we're looking at the point and the goal. It's not that I wasn't interested in helping people be healthy. I was. And it wasn't that I wasn't interested in helping marriages be healthy. I am. But the goal and my concern and my burden is our children. And I don't want to put a damper on this, but here's the bottom line. Some of the things that you will survive, your children won't necessarily. Some of the things that you, if you just didn't address them, you probably could survive, are going to have ramifications that are larger for your children. And I don't say that to be depressing, because you're here. And so that means you care. And so we're going to address those. We're going to deal with those. And we have, and we're going to continue to do so. And so I have concern for our kids. If you don't care about yourself, care about your kids. This is a negative statement. If you don't care about your marriage, at least care about your kids. Because the marriage relationship, your relationship with other people as well, how you relate to people, the modeling that you give is having a massive impact upon your children. And so our kids are really, really important, because how many of you remember you were once a kid? I still feel like I'm 16 years old. I've been told Monday night my family's taking me out along with my mom to celebrate Mom's 74th birthday and my 40th birthday. Can you believe? I don't feel like 40 years old. I really don't. Oh, I know. You only feel 55, right, Owen? I really don't. I've told you the funny story of sitting in an airplane and gawking like a kid. I used to gawk as a kid. If I'd go with my parents, I'd sit and I'd stare at people. When I was a kid, nobody paid me any mind. I could stare with impunity. Well, that doesn't work quite so well now. Suddenly I find the stewardess looking back at me, or I find the person across the aisle looking at me, and I'm not the little kid that everybody's just looking over. I'm an adult staring at them. I still feel like the little kid. And so every little kid grows up to become an adult. And the time is short. It is amazing to me. My wife and I were just talking tonight that in 2 years, Vincent legally has the right to have license. I really don't think it's going to happen. We only got one car. How can I have 3 people? What do I need 3 people for? So I'm thinking he's probably going to get a passport before he gets a driver's license. Passport's cheaper. You going to put him on your insurance? Oh, yeah. You're going to put him on your insurance? I'll gladly get him his driver's license if you put him on your insurance. See how quick I went on that one, though? I was waiting on him. I was waiting on that one. In 3 years from now, Vincent will be applying to college. Yeah. Now, you know, some of you are going, whoa. Well, I'm going, whoa. I still remember 912C, Village Circle. Sitting in that one-bedroom apartment, my leg hooked here, and that little baby fit in the crook of my leg. Taking the remnants of my Crunch Bar, ice cream Crunch Bar, and sticking it in his mouth and him sucking the ice cream off. Time is moving along, okay? Don't be desperate about it. And in fact, I'm very happy it's moving along. We're almost to the place I might be able to take my wife out of town overnight and not take the 5 kids. That's the cool part. Now, I go out of town overnight, but I don't go out of town with my wife overnight without the 5 kids. So there's good things that are coming with it, but children are growing up, and so we have a window. And so the things that Janet's going to talk about tonight, and we've already talked about, don't panic, but do be intentional, because we have a window. And that window is very, very important, because we're forming them in a formative state that will ultimately then have impact as they're adults. And so thank you for being here. And for those of you that don't exactly directly have children in your life, maybe you're older, maybe you're a grandparent, maybe, thank you for being here as well, because you may be able to transmit some of this to someone else who's not here, someone within your family, maybe even as a grandparent or as a caring adult in their lives. You never know where a word can be spoken. You never know what's happening. Before I bring Janet, I want to tell you one thing that has to do with this, but I want to share a testimony with you. Last night I got an email. I was blown away by this email, and that's why I want to share it with you. Sat down at my desk, and as most of you know, we changed telephone systems, and so a few of my contacts, few folks that I don't work with every week and every month, they are quite frustrated when they finally decide they want to call my cell phone, and of course it doesn't work. And one of these individuals, most of you don't know him. The walls have been painted by him. He's done personal work for me. His name is Jeff Pike. I had an email from Jeff. And he said, Steve, I tried to call your cell phone, couldn't get it, and so I'm dropping you an email. He said, I got an odd request. He says, I'd like for you, if you'd be willing to oversee my burial when I die. He said, now I'm not planning on dying anytime soon. He said, I don't go to church. I should, but I don't. But I am a religious man. I do believe in God, believe that He's there for me. And whenever the big guy in the sky decides he wants me up there, I'd like for you to handle the affairs. And then he proceeded to go on, and he said something that was both affirming and humbling. He said, "You have always treated me with kindness and respect. And it is obvious to me your connection to people and your care for people." He said, and then I found out why he's thinking about the end of life, because he said, last Saturday, a week from tomorrow, a good friend of mine, car got into, and some of you may even know from the paper, have read this story, somebody got in the wrong side of Route 1, and there was a head-on collision. And the father died. The wife is still alive. The daughter's all broken up. The wife was actually in a car following the father. And so this is obviously what's caught Jeff's attention. The reason I mention it to you is, and it relates to tonight, but it also relates to all of you in witness. Ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you right now that beyond, I think, twice, something as simple as saying, "Hey, you know, you're always welcome to come to church if you'd ever like to." I've never done anything that is quote-unquote witnessing. What I did do was what he said in the email. I treated him with kindness, treated him with respect, paid my bills on time, was kind to him when he was in my home, was kind to him when I was in the church. He did a good job in my home, so I gave him business here at the church. All I did was act as a Christian, operated as a Christian. And that witness of how I operated, that model that he watched, they're always watching. And here's the vector point that ties into this. Your children are always watching. And just as surely as Jeff Pike picked up on some things, pray for him. I've reached out to him and pray that God will allow things to progress. This is not an accident. This is what I've been telling you. Those of you from evangelism, this is what I've been telling you. Don't beat yourself up. Devil likes for you to beat yourself up. Don't do that. Go be Christians. Let your light shine. But with your children, same thing's happening. Now, they see the underside of you. They see the bad examples at times. So show them what it is to repent. Show them what it is to say, "I'm sorry." When they call you on being wrong, admit it. Because this example is so important. So as Janet talks tonight and about things to address, don't get overwhelmed. Just take it one day at a time. Be a Christian. Respond to what you're faced with. Because God has confidence in you. He set this system up of parents and children. Children come from Him. But He said, you guys can do the job. And when sin came into the world, He didn't take it back. He left it still in our hands. And so, if God's still got confidence in you, why don't you have confidence in you? You need to do what you need to do. You need to listen. You need to learn. You need to care. All of those things. But have confidence that what God has empowered you to do, it can happen. Now, I don't know. Matthew and Melody, are you even going to pay attention tonight? You have no kids. Oh, you got one. Forget it. Never mind. You got the live wire. We're done. We're done. I thought you were sitting there with no kids. I was like, oh my goodness, these two are out on date night. They're not even going to pay attention. Hello, Lily. Hi, Lily. All right, she's here. Janet, thank you for being here. I turn the floor over to you, and you have the rest of the night, so you determine the clock of when we take a break and so forth.
Will do. Thank you. It's good to be back, guys. I decided to title tonight, after the Beardsley clan, all my nieces, nephews, children, and my grandchild. And it's, if you just go by the first letters, they're all imps. And there's 16 of them. And they all are. And Sarah was helping me with this. And on the plane, I'm like, okay, but what am I going to do with the S? How am I going to do this? She goes, you can't do that. That would be an insult to imps. So she recognizes what it means to be a Beardsley. And they are definitely intelligent, manipulative persons of the smaller persuasion, and they know it. So, yes, I'm going to proceed with kids. I thank my brother because tonight is going to hit a little bit more on my passions, and might get a little bit more, I guess, away from biblical. I don't think it does. Personally, I don't think it does. You might go, well, you didn't use any verses. And I'm not, but I can't imagine talking about people and it being away from the Bible. So that's mine. But tonight's going to hit on some stuff that I deal with often, that it really has been my passion more so, in my study and my training, the focuses that I deal with all the time and have chosen to deal with. So we're going to start off by talking about losses that children face. And you guys are going to start off by helping me because I know it's Friday and it's a little chillier here and you've been outside and now you're in here and it's nice and warm and you're going to all cuddle down and you're going to sit on me. All right, so you're going to help me here. What are some losses that children face? Did you say moving? Yes, moving. Pets, death as in, or losing just because they go to live with someone else, right? Divorce. Okay. Yep. Parents working out of the home, that separation. You keep thinking. Grandparents, death, okay? So we got death, moving, divorce, parental problems. Is that a loss? It's an issue, isn't it? Okay. Maybe the loss of the peace in the home? Yes, ma'am. All right, think of one, then put your hand up, okay? I know you guys got them. Losses. Marcus. Okay, is that a loss? How's that a loss? And you are right. But what's the loss there? If your dad starts beating you, abusing you, what's your loss? Loss of a healthy relationship. You're bailed out by your brother, see? That's why big brothers are good, right? The loss of trust, the loss of relationship, the loss of innocence in the world, right? The loss of safety. What else? Losses. Loss of what, honey?
Your father being a drunkard.
Okay. Okay. Losses. Loss of an animal. Yes. Their teeth? Okay. Let's go practical. Loss of teeth. Yes, ma'am. Toys. Oh, I remember it. 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, having to go back to the church for Ducky. Yes, loss of toys. Okay. Kids can lose their parents, right? Yep. Foster care, adoption, court concerns. Loss of friends. Yep. Do you have one? Loss of people, okay? Yes, ma'am. Okay. If incarceration of a parent, mother or father, yes. There's one way back there. Loss of health. Okay. I still didn't hear it. Teachers. Okay.
Lots of socks without holes.
Okay. Don't go silly on me, guys. Grandparents. He said loss of socks without holes. Okay. Yes. All right. Let's see if you hit them all. And I think you did. Losses. Okay. We got death. And you're right, death of grandparents, death of siblings, death of parents, death of animals. We have lots of different deaths, right? And some of those are going to be more significant than others. Divorce. Lots of losses come with divorce. What do we lose when there's a divorce? We lose two-parent home, the stability, income. There's usually moving. Could be a loss of trust. Could be. That security you might have. There's a whole lot of stuff that changes, right? And for kids it hits, and I'll return to this one. But with divorce, that's a big one. And then you have an absent parent. That could be in the military, right? Could be divorce. It could be never married and one takes off. It could be it's just absent parent, right? Whether it's maybe a legitimate reason or not so legitimate. They can have the moving. Now, the top losses for children, okay, the one that happens the most, are moving and divorce that hit children the most frequently. We all do experience some deaths, but with divorce, we know the divorce rate. How many people in here are either from a divorced family or they are themselves divorced? Put your hand up. Okay. And that's actually a low number. So that's great. Because we know the percentage is pretty high, right? Parents divorced, or you are divorced. I get it from both sides. I am divorced. I have a parent that was divorced. So, we can have that. We have friendships, loss of those, right? Because they can come from just naturally going from 5th grade to 6th grade. Is that usually a change in public schools for here? Okay. Lots of loss of friendship there. Or going 8th grade to 9th grade, is that where you're in public schools? Okay. And a loss of some of that security and that safety that they might have in the elementary school going to that middle school. And then from the middle school, do you guys call it middle school here or junior high? Okay. Then from middle school to high school. Lots of changes. And I'm bringing it up because we want to look at how it impacts kids. We overlook it way too often. So we have the loss of friendships that can happen because of moves, because of divorce, because of all these other things. But it could just be natural course of our life. Okay, so then loss of innocence, which would be if you have inappropriate behavior in the home, whether that's physical abuse, sexual abuse, alcohol, drug use, so there's inappropriateness there. You're exposed to things. More and more kids are exposed to porn really young. Even if they don't see it, they know about it. Why would kids need to know about it? Probably you thinking, because I bring them here and you keep talking about it. But they are exposed to lots of loss of innocence. Things aren't as we want kids to think that they are. And we want them to feel safe and secure. So then we have that security and safety loss, and then birth order and position. When would you lose that? When another sibling is born, or blended families. Blended families can really throw someone off. Because here I have been the oldest, and now there's someone a year older than me, or 2 years older than me, or 3 years older than me, or two of them that are 2 years older than me. Or I was the baby, and now I'm no longer the baby. So yes, the birth of a sibling, There are some children that are so traumatized by the birth of a sibling. Can't you tell that Vincent's just so messed up because he has siblings? I mean, you never see him sitting really close to his brothers or sisters, do you? But some really have a big adjustment to that, especially when it's like they're 3 or 4 when the child is born. At 2, it's. But then, when you came along, you were never the one and only. So you never knew what that was like. But Vince was only 2 when you came along, so he might not have really known what it was like to be the one and only either. Now, Samantha was 16 when she lost her rank. And you might think, okay, well, she was older. It didn't affect her. It did. She was the one and only in my home and in her dad's home. And then we had children 9 days apart. We had the same due date. So Samantha's mom and stepmom had the same due date when she was 16. And we both had problems where we had to go to the hospital beforehand. She had to go through all that. She's like, I'm never having children. She's like, if you want natural birth control, have a baby when your child is 15 or 16. That's what she said. She couldn't go to either home without there would being a baby crying. So she recognized, she couldn't even get away from it. But it's still she was scared that I was going to die, her stepmom was going to die, her little brother was born, he took too big a breath of air and popped holes in his lungs. You know, Sarah, here I am having to rush to the hospital and be induced. And so what Samantha went through was a little traumatic for her, but she also then said, I have no place that's mine anymore. Now you have your family, and Dad has his family. Whereas before, she felt like she had it all. Now, when they were born, she initially felt, I have nothing. Now where do I fit? So there can be big changes, even with having a sibling, when they're older. Blended families, though, you really get a whole lot of, let's mix this up. And then sharing rooms. You might lose space. I mean, Marcus doesn't even know what it's like, the whole concept of having his own room. But if it was, Steve had his 3 and Regina had her 2 and they were from different, and then they put them together, and Marcus had always had his own room, you know, because there was the boy and the 2 girls, and so he'd never had to share, and then here comes these 2 older boys. He'd have a few losses there. And he'd probably be a little, what do you think? Angry? Upset about that? Okay, so there's some losses. Natural disaster. Had to throw that one in. You guys just had it. But we do know there's losses there, right? We can think, wow, that house got blown down. Well, guess what? There was probably a kid that lived in that house. And yes, they lost their toys, but can you imagine, like, okay, there's my house. It's a pile of sticks. Now, we know as adults that we have to face that too. Are we there for the kids and recognizing what it's doing to them? I was just mentioning Dad at dinner that, I've seen she's in 6th grade, so what, 11, 12 probably, year-old that she's having panic attacks because of global warming. She thinks the world's going to end. Thinks it's going to blow up. And it's really affecting her, what she's hearing on the news. Hurricanes, tornadoes, Sandy. That what kicked her off. I had seen her a while ago, but she came back. I hadn't seen her in probably 6-8 months or something for some other issues. But she's having panic attacks. And Sandy's what kicked it in. And we're in Texas. But just seeing the devastation. With the media that we have nowadays, our kids are being devastated by it to some extent. And we want to be in touch with that. We don't want to just think what doesn't affect them? It's just the news. They're just hearing the news. But we got to know, okay, what kind of resources do they have to cope with that? So what we want to look at is, and health. Sorry, got that one. Health. Grandma has cancer. Mom has cancer. Loss of anything. And, brother has leukemia. So health can bring losses, or they themselves could have with health issues and face some losses. So lots of different areas where kids can face losses. So what do we do about it? What we want to do is, recognize that they have to grieve. Grief is the process that reshapes our inner world, typically because of what's going on in our outer world. And it will change how we think about the world, especially to a 5, a 6-year-old, an 11 or a 12-year-old. It's like, how are they seeing it? Do we just go, oh, well, kids are resilient? That's the wrong attitude. Kids are very resilient. They are. They're great. Aren't you, Caleb? Caleb's great. They are very resilient. But we don't want to just go, oh, well, they don't know what's going on. Or, oh, it won't affect them. Oh, well, he's good. Oh, he can handle anything. We want to make sure how they're doing. So we do want to check in. So two central challenges for the child is processing the actual event. Okay, what is cancer? Can you catch it too? That's a natural response. You see someone that they're bald because they're going through chemo. Well, can I catch that? What does that mean? Does that mean mommy could get it? Does that mean daddy could get it? That person's going to die? Watching grandma go through it, and well, what happens if that happens to mom? And we want to have some conversation here with our kids, because they are dealing with losses. So we want to help them to identify those, and we don't want to just be out of touch with it. So they need to, process the actual event and then coping with the loss of the loved one, if it, whatever that loss is. And it could be a lost thing. Like I mentioned with Ducky, when Sarah was 2 or 3, we had to go to church, and again, it was 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Luckily, I had a key that I could get in the church and go get Ducky, because Ducky was left at Sunday night service, and she couldn't sleep without Ducky. But then it was 4 years ago that Ducky was left in Branson. She had to go a week without Ducky, but they kept that nasty-looking duck that has no fur on it anymore because it's so old and it's been washed so many times. They kept it because they know when they look that bad, they're really special. And they just took my credit card information and they shipped it to me. And she had to go a week without Ducky. So Ducky's still in our life, okay? But we know it could be that kind of loss, okay? I know my nephew, my older Joshua, okay? Nephew. There's lots of nephews. But Joshua, he had lost brown bear. But he left it on an airplane. They were not getting brown bear back. And Uncle Jack had actually bought brown bear for Josh when he was like 2, I think, 1 or 2. And this was probably when he was 9. So it was very upsetting when you've always had something like that. And you go through a loss where you could go, well, it's just a stuffed animal, here's another one. Right? Because we bought more ducks. After that trip to the church, we bought more ducks exactly like Ducky, so that we wouldn't have to make any more trips late at night to go get a duck. Here's a substitute. Here's another duck. And we tried that. She named it Daddy Duck, because that was Daddy's duck. That wasn't her duck, but she would sleep with Ducky and Daddy Duck. She was okay with that. And when Ducky was gone, then Daddy Duck substituted, but we still had to have Ducky back. So kids can have those losses. And so we want to help them through the process and then coping with that loss. Now, sometimes those losses are, like I said, they're more significant. You could have the loss of a grandparent. That could be really significant, or it may not be, right? Because it depends on relationship. You could feel a greater loss at the loss of a duck than a grandparent. And we don't want to qualify that for kids. We don't want to go, well, you didn't even get this upset when your grandma died. They might not have a relationship with grandma. And so with distance nowadays, you might not have that. But it's also on them. Now, I'm sorry, Sarah, but I'm going to use you again, okay? We had a Chihuahua that disappeared 3 weeks ago now. That Chihuahua was very, very special to my husband and my daughter. And we don't know if a coyote ate it, jumped over our fence and grabbed it out of our backyard, because we have them out there in the woods, or a hawk or something grabbed that dog. We don't really believe he got out and ran away. We still put up flyers. We still went door to door. Sarah wanted to. I got pictures, printed off. We did all that. So there was a significant loss in our home and feeling of that weekend. And I wanted to acknowledge that with her and with my husband, okay? He was very upset too. That dog ruled our house. I didn't like the dog, but I still didn't like them being upset. The dog didn't like it. The dog tried to bite me all the time. He did not like it if I even did this to Sarah, okay? You know how you do that with your kids? That they're giving you lip and you go like this? Well, you go rah, 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 and come at me, And I tell her, you better act right, because I'll kick that dog across the room because you're going to get it. So the dog, and the dog he only bit me once. I think he bit her like 2 or 3 times trying to get at me. But, it was that kind of dog. But it was still a significant loss for her. Now, when she was having a fit because her fish died, it was 2 frogs and a fish. The last one was a fish. And she was bawling and wailing. I didn't show the empathy because we want to help our kids keep it in perspective. And I said, you will not be allowed to have small critters if you're going to act this way. It is a fish. You didn't pet it. You didn't hug it. You didn't, cuddle with it. It didn't know when you came into the room. It didn't know when you left the room. It's a little tiny fish. Now, I didn't do that as much with the frogs. The 2 frogs died first, and I allowed her to fall apart. But when it happened, then the fish died. I'm like, okay, we're going to keep, because there's a number of fish in this tank. So we got to kind of keep it in perspective. And I said, come on, it's a fish. And I think, she's had lizards die, and that was okay too, because the lizard, we got it out, and it crawled. It was a bearded dragon, and it was kind of cool. When Spiky died, we buried it out back. But the fish, yes, it's like, no, we're flushing it. And I said, well, maybe it'll come back to life once it's around all that sewage. And so we do want to help our kids keep it in perspective, okay, while being sensitive to them age-wise and all that. So it's not always just good to go, oh, I know it's just really horrible that the fish didn't even have a name, so I can't even talk about it. Okay, she says she named it, but she didn't tell anybody. All right. But we know with a dog, something that, walks around, that's a little bit more significant. A person is a whole lot more significant, right? Even though, I've had my close dogs. I knew my dad was devastated when that little dog that came to the church with him died. Benji, yep. We know that. We know it hurts us, but we want to teach, it's kind of like, okay, so we want to show them. So it's the twofold, processing the event, understanding what happened, what is happening, and all that. Now, that's key because of where I'm going with this, okay? So, coping with loss. First, kids will have many of the exact same feelings that we will, right? They can be really sad. They can be depressed. They can feel anger. They can feel irritable. Yeah, all that kind of stuff. However, they're less equipped emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually to deal with it. They also have fewer resources. They don't usually call up their friend and go, like I could. I have significant adults in my life that I could go, oh, I got to talk to you about this. Like my dad knew about, I keep calling him Rolly. It was Diogi. Rolly was Samantha's Chihuahua. Diogi was Sarah's Chihuahua. And he knew about it probably within a couple days, And it was more of, like, oh, let me tell you what happened. Even though it wasn't a huge loss to me. But he knew, but I have resources. Most adults here, they have resources. They have someone they could call and talk to. And this Sarah, who would she call? And she's not going to go, oh, well, I can call Ben. She's not even going to think that way. Right? They'd limit it. And Ben would be a great resource. Nick's a great resource, right? Other people are great, but she might not think of that. She's not going to have that. It's not going to come to her mind. So they have limited resources, and it ties into that. Where are they emotionally? They don't know how to emotionally handle everything. So we have to help them through that process by telling them, okay, that's a little bit too much. Or what you're, helping them label these feelings. And so we need to offer that comfort and the support. And then we also want to teach them how to act, how to feel. Now, when I say teaching them how to feel, I don't really mean go, well, you shouldn't feel that way. That's really the wrong thing to say, okay? Don't tell them how they shouldn't feel. When I say teaching them about their feelings is label it for them. All they're going to know is, I don't feel good. This feels bad. Or they might do that whole angry, I'm just angry. So you might have to explore that, because what's under anger? And then how to adjust, what to do. I'm used to the dog. Going in and telling her, it's okay. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry. And then when she's like, I'm kind of doing okay. I think I'm ready to get another dog. Saying, you know what, that's okay too. It's okay though when something happens and then you're going to miss Diogi again. I see lots of adults and have to go through the grief process with them and say, it's really okay to miss your mom. Even though she's been dead for 2 years. It's really okay. You lost a child. It's never going away. And that's okay. You're going to keep functioning. You're going to keep living. We're going to keep trusting God. But you're going to feel that. It's not going to go away. What do when and I might have to say to people, okay, when do you think would be an acceptable grieving period? When should you not hurt because your mom died? When should you not hurt anymore because your son died? Right. But people have to be told that. Well, if adults have to be told that, what do kids need to be told? Right? We want to be sensitive to that. We want to, help them adjust. It's okay. It's okay that, and even helping them adjust, and I know I'm going on death with this one, but it really is with all of these losses. Whether it's a friendship. I saw a little girl that, I think first or second grade, and she was really heartbroken because it was the moms were friends, and then the girls with the moms had a falling out. Well, what does that happen to the girls' friendship? It kind of ends because the moms have a falling out. But to go, you know what? It's okay to be mad about that. To help them label it, help them go, I know you're going to miss that friendship. I know you'd like it to be different. I know you're going to miss that animal. I know that you don't want to move. I know it's going to be a big adjustment. Not, Oh, yeah, it's not a big deal. I moved 5 times when I was a kid. Right? Because that's minimizing. We don't want to minimize. We don't want to be dismissive. And so we want to listen and be sensitive. And I have that on a whole another slide that's coming, so we'll get there. So, they need us to tell them what's okay and how to act. It's okay to cry. It's okay not to cry. It's like, everybody's sad and everybody's crying because Grandma died, and I really don't feel like crying. That's okay. It really is okay. It's okay if later on you do feel like crying. Sometimes people, sometimes people don't feel stuff immediately. Right? Even as adults. Because we just go through it, and we're really good, and we're strong. I know when Samantha's good friend in college, we don't know for sure she committed suicide. We don't know if it was an intentional suicide. She did commit suicide. We just don't know if it was intentional because she overdosed. But Samantha stepped up, and at school, she organized the memorial. She went and cleaned out this girl's apartment for the parents. She contacted the parents. She was there for the brother. She picked out the clothes for the girl. She did all this stuff. And it was probably a year and a half later, and she was having a hard time. And she was like, I shouldn't be crying about this. I said, why not? You haven't cried yet. You haven't grieved it. You got busy. You were proactive. You were and you distracted yourself. So now it's hitting you. So as adults, we do that. Don't you think kids might too? And so we got to recognize it could come up and not say, what are you upset about this now for? That was 6 months ago. I remember in first grade laying on the couch and just crying and crying and crying and crying because my boyfriend broke up with me. And he went with this other girl instead. Now, you can be empathetic, right? But again, it needs to be pulled back into perspective. Which, in my opinion, I shouldn't have had a boyfriend anyhow when I'm only 6. Because what am I doing? What am I setting myself up for? What does that even mean, having a boyfriend at 6? It just means I'm setting myself up to be hurt because he's not going to be the guy I marry. So what good can come out of that other than I get hurt? Because what's the difference in a boyfriend and a friend? But anyhow, that's my other pet peeve. So I won't go there too much. But we need to teach them. When there are losses, we really want to take it as an opportunity to connect with our kids and to teach them. Sometimes that's a little hard because we may be wrapped up in the loss too, right? But again, like I said last time 2 times I was here ago, last time I didn't teach. So when I was here before and I taught, I was saying, our role as parents is that we're teaching, we're training, we're preparing. We don't get to take time off. Our focus is that I'm taking this child and I'm teaching them. We do it intentionally. We don't do it just by the seat of our pants. We don't do it haphazardly. We're thinking ahead. What are my goals? Do you guys know anybody that just goes and gets a job and doesn't have goals ahead of that? I'm just going to work, whatever job I get. Most of us don't address life that way. We look at, I'm going to start here, and then maybe I can move up here, or then I can transfer here. Because I guarantee you, I'm not still working at Bonanza bussing tables. That was my first job. He's not making tacos, right? So we don't do it haphazardly. So, with our kids, we just don't do it haphazardly. Yes, ma'am. And that's a good thing to pull up. No, it is true that once they hit another developmental stage, they could process it differently, right? And they might have to redo it. And it's not totally redo it, but it'll bring in new things. Like when I treat, or I see teenagers that have been sexually abused, I tell them then, you will, at different points in your life, stuff will come back. And you will want to get a counselor at that time. Because this will come back and it'll bother you later, even though we can get to a good point now. It could be, and I point out sometimes, it could be when you get married, okay? Because of the whole being sexually active. Could be when you have a child, because now you're protective. Could be when your child is that the age that you were when this happened. And so I tell them that. And so yes, there can be different. And so developmentally, pardon me? Hopefully, yeah. A fish, I'd be going, get real here. We had another problem. Could be along the lines of OCD. So let's, yeah. Right. I had a dog once that, like 2 years later, I could still cry about that dog. I loved that dog. That dog was my companion and my protector. A big black lab named Pinky. So Samantha named the dog Pinky. Yes. Pinky was a great dog. So we want to look at it as that opportunity to connect and to teach. All right. What we need to do in order to be able to be there for our kids, what we've been saying all along, is you got to be healthy in a healthy spot yourself, right? So you want to, if you're healthy, it helps you so you can actually attend to it. It doesn't mean you have to be totally there, okay? If Regina's mom dies, okay, she can't just that very day go, oh, come here, kids, and I'll be here all for you. She could, but that just means she's distracting, and she's going to have to grieve later, okay? It is better if she deals with something. But it doesn't mean she has to be totally over it in order then to be sympathetic to how it's affecting her children. It's also great that she has Steve, because then Steve can step in. But it'd be horrible if Regina and Steve are off, and they're all falling apart, and the kids are just going, guess I'll play my DS. It's because we want to be there for them. Otherwise, they won't know what to do. And so it is, we want to be attentive, and then it helps us to be creative. There's lots of different ways to address things, and it's knowing your child. And it's your child, not your children, because we know that all the children are different, aren't they? Right? Are they all different? I know, they're all different. You can have as many as you want. They're all going to be different. And you can't treat one the same. And so we want to be creative. We want to connect with them. And so we need to be healthy ourselves. It also, you have to realize that we can't take away their pain. We can't take away their disappointment. We can't undo that someone died, that we are moving, that there's a divorce. It does no good for that child if you're consumed with guilt. We want to recognize we can't take it away. But I can offer support. I can offer affirmation of feelings. See, and if you've been here in the spring and this last fall, and Steve's like since this all started, it really does all connect. Okay? So it's that offering that affirmation of feelings. Help them to label their feelings. Say, oh, it sounds like you're feeling this way. And they can go, no, I'm not. Okay, how are you feeling? What is going on? And so we can't take it away, but we can assist. And we want to help them stay grounded. It is sometimes easy to blame God for a loss. Why did God, give Grandma so many different things? Why did Grandma have to die of cancer? Why did that truck have to run over Uncle Tom? And they can turn and blame God. We want them to stay grounded. We have to have discussions. And it can be very similar to some of the questions that come into our own heads, right? Why did that truck have to go run over Uncle Tom? Why didn't God protect him? I've heard many, many, many stories, you probably have too, of people going, there was something, and I just left 5 minutes late because I was tied up, and I got to the point, and there was this major accident. And if I had left on time, I probably would have been in that accident. And they give God the credit for that. We don't want to then go, okay, well, they were in the accident, therefore God wasn't there for them. God loved me, but not them. Why didn't God love them? That's not logical thinking. So, we can go there in our heads, so we got to realize kids can go there too. But they also don't have it developmentally the way to process everything. And so you need to be creative in it. I think I've shared with you, in talking with Samantha when she was like 12, every time we talked about her grandfather, her dad's dad, she was named after him, Sam Corey, okay? And every time she talked about it, she'd cry, and I found out, well, he's in hell, and it's all her fault. That was her thinking, which blew me away. Because here I am, I talk to my child. We talk about God. She's a Bible quizzer, man, she should know the difference. Why is she thinking this? But we don't know how kids are going to process things. And so we do have to kind of delve in there and go, okay, what might I pick up? And it may not even come out until 2 years later, anyhow, that she was thinking that was her fault. And so we want to help them stay grounded. We want to help them to cope with it by reaching out to them. And then we want to encourage them to share and label their feelings and help to problem solve. We can share our own feelings. It really helps to go, you know what? There's times when I'm going, why, God? And that's okay. God knows we don't understand. God knows that we can get discouraged at times. My saying nowadays is discouraged but not, or is disappointed but not discouraged. Be disappointed in life. Don't be discouraged. So it's helping kids. Let them know how you are feeling, how you're coping with it, how you're processing it. And again, being age appropriate. Because we don't want them to be the one helping us to cope, right? So we don't flip it there. We do want to be there for them. And then if we are unstable and vulnerable, then we can be numb to their feelings. They're going to say stuff. We're going to dismiss it. We're going to minimize it. We're just not going to understand or be there for them. We can also block them from expressing it. If my mom passes away and every time I think of my mom I cry and Sarah knows that, well, does she have any liberty to talk to me about my mom dying? Or about the dog? As far as Diogi dying, if I cry all the time about Diogi, does she have liberty to come to me with that? No, right? Or if when Samantha's dad, she was only 18 months old when we split, so it wouldn't have happened. But if we had split and I was really upset and I was crying all the time and she knew that, and she knew I got angry or cried every time her dad was mentioned, would she have liberty to talk to me about her feelings? No. So we have to watch what we're doing. I had a couple in my office yesterday, and there's been the lady was sexually harassed at work, okay? And she is, just a few years younger than me, okay? So it's not like she's 20 or anything. But there were some pretty significant things that happened. I had suggested get out of there. She went and saw a medical doctor, get out of there, see an attorney, don't put up with this stuff. She hadn't told her husband before I talked to her, but she did tell him, and then they were both meeting, and so they have 2 adult children, and so she's going off work, and I'm like, yeah, you need to, they have two twins that are in their 20s. So it's like, you need to tell them. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to tell him. I'm so mad at him, that guy, and I want to go beat him up, and I want to smash him, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And I said, that's all about you. If you do that, that's all about you. That is not going to give them liberty to express themselves. I understand you feel that way, but if you're going to sit down and you're going to talk to them and you have some concerns, sharing this with your kids in the first place, you don't want to turn it and then make it all about you. I'm not trying to be rude, but it's like, you can say, yeah, I'm angry. It makes me angry. But you don't want to make it all about you. And that's where when it's coming to helping kids, we can't make it all about us, or then they're going to need to take care of me because they love me. Right? Or they're going to join me if I'm just all ranting and raving. They're going to come alongside me and rant and rave with me. And that's not productive. We want them to be able to express their feelings and how they actually feel, not how I feel. I'll give you a break in just a minute. We also might over-identify with them, okay? And so Sarah comes to me, and I'm really sad that Dioge's gone, and I'm really afraid that a coyote ate him. Yeah, me too. That's not going to help her. So if I over-identify with it, I'm really sad, if it's after a divorce and a child comes and, I really miss Dad. I miss what we used to have. Yeah, I miss him. I miss that too, but I don't miss that guy being in this house. That's not appropriate either. That's still over-identifying with it, but you're flipping it negative. You're flipping back to you instead of staying with them. And it's hard, especially after a divorce or after a move, because we have losses too, right? It's a new place, new job, could be, all these other things. And so, especially divorce, typically there's some negative feelings there. So it's kind of hard then to back off, don't be numb, don't block, don't over-identify, and don't lose appropriate boundaries. Don't make the child your support, your confidant, the person affirming your feelings, the one taking care of you. We got to keep appropriate boundaries in there. We don't share everything. It is really inappropriate. And if there weren't kids here, I'd share some stuff with you, but there's too many kids here. There's stuff I knew at 15 that my stepdad was doing that there's no way in the world I should have known any of that stuff. It's not good. So we don't want to dump on, don't dump it on your kids, even though, yes, I was very mature at 15. Okay, we don't want to dump on them. We want to examine our own experience. Okay, we want to ask, how were losses dealt with in our own families growing up? How were they handled in our places of worship? What's been helpful? What's not helpful or even hurtful? What losses in our lives are we aware of today that need healing, and what are we doing about it? So if we still have hot spots, things that are getting us going, how are we dealing with that? But we know we have some years of experience. What's helped? What's not helped? Telling someone, oh, I had a miscarriage. Oh, yeah, I had one too. Is that helpful? Oh, I've had 3. Okay, did that help you? Oh, my baby would have been born today. This was the due date if I hadn't miscarried. You still crying about that? You can have more kids. Oh, I really miss my mom. She was 85. What's wrong with you? Look, it was not helpful. Because I don't care if they are 85. I already know my Tuesday nights driving home from work after this man dies, I'm going to cry the whole way home. And I'll probably do it for 5 years, because I talk to him every Tuesday night on my drive home from work. I work till 9 and I call him. I didn't call him last Tuesday. I was busy. I got on the phone. I was talking to my sister and doing stuff, and I was going to call him later and never did. And I understand. I will greatly miss it when I can't do it. I'll just have to call up and listen to your phone and say you can't answer. All right. So we want to ask those questions. I'm going to go one more, and then I'm going to... All right, so things that we can do. A child should be told immediately when someone in the family has died. A lot of times this doesn't happen. Tell them when stuff's happening. Now, I know when it comes to, and I'm going to focus on death, but it really does go across if you're moving, if you're getting divorced. It's those major times of trauma. Don't let them overhear it, because they will. We might think that this little one right here isn't paying any attention at all. But we know they do. And then, yeah, Sarah popped her head up. Are you talking about me? You know? They are. They're listening. And so they really are that whole, they're intelligent, manipulative people. Oh, the smaller persuasion, okay? They're intelligent. They know. They hear. They know if you start whispering, listen even more. Right? Ooh, they don't want me to hear this. Sarah's what would you say? I was talking to your dad. I know, but what'd you say? Well, I lowered my voice for a reason, Sarah. Okay. But they know. So when there's a loss, you want to share it. Don't keep it from them. No, there was one animal. I can't remember what animal died, and I said to Jack, well, can't we just go get another one and put it in its place? Maybe it was the fish. I don't remember now. But it was the lizard. I don't know what one it was. But he's like, no, we can never get one the same color and the same size. I'm like, okay. But, we want to tell them when there's a loss. We want to tell them kind of when they're in familiar surroundings. You pick them up from school, you do not have to tell them in the car. Your dad moved out. We're getting divorced. At least wait till you get home, okay? Familiar settings. And don't whisper. Use a normal voice. Oh, I'm sorry, but Grandma died. It's like, that's like spooky. We don't want to make it spooky. Right? So do it in a normal voice. Normalize it. So many losses. Are loss a normal part of life? Has anybody in here not had a loss? I mean, that'd be strange. But losses are such a normal part of life that we need to normalize it and just teach how to adjust. That's why with kids, we don't want to keep it away from them. We want to teach them now how to do it so that when they're 25 and they experience loss, they're not getting drunk at the local bar or whatever else they might do. So we want good, healthy coping strategies. What's normal, what's not, how to get affirmation, how to have that affirmed. We also, we want to give honest explanation within limits of understanding. Okay? If Dad ran off with his secretary to Mexico and isn't coming back, it's not good to just say, well, he went to visit Grandma. You guys laugh. I have to deal with this stuff all the time. I know your dad hasn't seen you in 2 years, but he really does love you. I mean, be honest. Honest would be, I have no idea what your dad's feeling. I think he's crazy because I love you so much I can't imagine even going a week without seeing you, much less 2 years. That's honesty. No, you see, I didn't flip it on him. I didn't make him a bad person. But I was honest. So you do it honest and you do it with age appropriate. But don't lie to them. So many parents lie to their kids. Like I was going to with whatever animal it was. Let's just replace it. Okay, you want to avoid euphemisms, okay? We lost Grandma. Are we going to go look and find her? It's not good. She's asleep. When's she going to wake up? God took them. Well, why did God do that? That messes kids up. They don't understand. Kids are very literal. Especially little ones are very literal. And they're going to stare at this person in the coffin and go, I don't see them breathing. Are you sure they're sleeping? So we don't want it. We want to just, be honest. They're not going to, really young kids don't fully understand the concept of death anyhow, any more than they understand the concept of time. Tell your child we're running late to hurry up. Tell your 6 or 7-year-old we're running late, hurry up. Does that affect their speed at all? Well, a lot of times it doesn't affect them either if you say someone died. Grandma died, and then it's Christmas. Where's Grandma? Okay, so don't freak out about that because there might not be that developmental understanding. And there has to be a reminder. So you want to recognize that repeated questions are a means of them recreating stability in the status quo. They're going to keep asking. They want to see if anything changed because it is something they don't really understand. And they're going to ask you for the details over and over and over again. And that's okay. It's hard when you're grieving also. But don't go, I already told you this. You can say, I can't talk about this right now. But they will. They want to recreate stability. They don't want you upset. They don't, they're going to ask a lot of questions. And then you want to tell them what to expect. If there's a funeral, if there's, with Dioji being gone, I was telling Sarah, well, if we hear something tomorrow or Sunday, because it was Friday night, then that's good. After that, probably not. Tell them what to expect. It kind of threw us backwards, though, because we did get a call 2 weeks later. I think I might have your dog. It wasn't. I knew it wasn't when the message said it had a flea collar on. Because our Chihuahua had no collars, nothing. He did have a chip. But my husband, I still needed to call him back. I needed to get pictures. He wanted to go see and make sure I got the pictures, and then it was. But then it was, well, let's not tell Sarah about the call, because I don't want her upset. But then after he saw the picture, he goes, well, why don't you go show Sarah and make sure that's not him? So he needed that confirmation. It was obvious, this dog that was on my phone. I keep doing this because it was on my phone. That wasn't our dog, but he needed that. And then it was okay for Sarah. And Sarah said to me, let's not tell Dad because he'll get upset. So they were both taking care of each other kind of thing. So that was okay. All right, I think I'm on the next one. All right, let's take a break. It is almost quarter till. So come back at 9. All right, 5 to 9. Go to the bathroom, get a drink, come back.